Hey everyone, welcome to Off the Mat, a podcast about two women's experience in Jiu-Jitsu and how that translates into our lives off the mat. I'm Justine, a bit of a renegade, outdoor enthusiast, and a white belt in Jiu-Jitsu.
And I'm Karina, a full-time student, creative artist, and also a white belt on my way to becoming a black belt.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Off the Mat. This is our 8th episode since we began this podcast. And we have a super interesting topic to discuss today because Karina and I just competed in Pan IBJJF National Championship in, how do you pronounce that?
Kissimmee, Florida, which
Kissimmee,
which is normally...
Okay, here's Kissimmee.
Thanks, Siri.
That's creepy. Oh my god, that is creepy.
So it's held in Kissimmee, Florida this year, but normally it's held on the West Coast. So we kind of got a lucky advantage that it was on our home field. Yeah, about a 2-hour drive from where we are. And for us, this was our first real competition. We did do an episode about an exhibition competition that we competed in at our gym.
Right.
That was where we were 2 out of 3 girls who showed up. We had to go with someone who was way outside of our weight class. We also rolled with men. And so in this competition, it was extremely different in that it's an IBJJF competition. So there were weight classes. We were both in the featherweight. So we were only going to be fighting with people between 119 and 129 pounds with their gi on.
Yes.
Only women, only white belts.
Yes. So I know we had talked about a little bit our fight camp and, like, hey guys, get ready for you to listen to us talk about our competition. So before this competition, we had signed up in a 6-week fight camp through our gym. So a couple of us at the gym who were going to go to this Pan American Championship competition went through a 6-week process of training, of drilling, and of extra classes each week. So that's kind of how we started to prepare for this big first competition.
And I would say a huge part of that, too, was the food that we were taking, at least.
Right, so it was nutrition, it was accountability through an app, and it was extra training.
Yeah, extra training, extra drilling. And as we mentioned in our last episode, both Karina and I ended up getting sick for about a week and a half, 2 weeks of those 6 weeks. And I think what we wanted to do today was kind of take you through the whole experience of this competition. This Pan IBJJF competition is one of the biggest in the world.
It's one step under Worlds for Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes, and there were, I think, approximately 4,600 participants over the course of a few days. It's still going on as we're recording this. And it's a big deal. It's live streamed on Flow Grappling and
$150, almost $200 to get in.
Yep.
All of the requirements, you had to send in documents, make sure you're on time, not missing deadlines.
Have to have an IBJJF ID.
Yeah, I got mine in the mail.
Nice. Just a little late.
But it was definitely something that we were signing up for that we knew was going to be a bigger bite than we had done previously.
Yes, and so I think we wanted to take this opportunity to go through kind of the journey of getting to the point of the competition and what that competition was like, and then our thoughts on it after competing. Because it was a huge investment in time, energy, emotions, physical stamina, everything like that. So I think the place to start with is why we decided to enter this competition. One of the biggest stages in the world for Jiu-Jitsu. And Karina, why did you make this crazy decision?
People want to know. They want to know why.
Yeah, to put yourself in the intensity of that training camp and everything that came with competing in Pans.
Yeah. I would say that I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into, so I might preface with that. As far as why I got into it, I think that I enjoy a challenge, and I don't normally get to challenge myself in exciting realms such as Jiu-Jitsu. So I think when that opportunity arose, I was just initially, maybe starstruck and I potentially can have an opportunity to compete. And I knew that competing was something that I wanted to try out at least once, because it is part of the sport, and once you get to a certain level, you can have fun with it once you know what you're doing. So I think my big why was putting myself to the challenge, seeing if I could rise to the occasion, and then whatever else followed. But I was excited to test my limits. How about you?
I think I flip-flopped a bit more than you did in the beginning, kind of going back and forth. It is an investment, not just in terms of time, but like you mentioned, it's kind of a substantial amount of money, and you have to, change a bit. I know I'd have to buy some extra food I don't normally buy to get the protein I needed.
Buy extra
Buy an
clothing
extra
garments,
gi, extra
gis,
rash guard or whatever I was going to wear.
other mouth guards, like correct water bottles, hair tie, everything.
Yes, so I knew it was going to be an investment, and I was super lucky that someone from our gym ended up sponsoring me to participate in PANS. So that kind of took away any excuse that I might have had for not competing. And similar to you, I enjoy the thrill of a challenge, and if there's something scary, I tend to walk towards it instead of away from it, just as a life philosophy and practice, for better or for worse. But I think that was a huge thing, is that I knew it would challenge me. I knew it would facilitate an expedited growth in my development as a practitioner in Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
And I think just the opportunity seemed very unique. And obviously I was aware of the reality that I would be going in as a new white belt, and you can be competing against people who are about to be promoted to blue belt or being held back until right after the competition to be promoted. Sometimes at PANS, people get promoted on the podium after they've won.
Right. And from white belt to blue belt, it's a pretty distinct difference.
Mm-hmm.
When you roll with the blue belt as a white belt, you are very aware that they are better than you.
You get your ass kicked.
So knowing that you're on the low end of the totem pole and could go against somebody on the higher end, that was something that we had to think about and just kind of accept.
Yeah, and so I think we both had a pretty healthy approach going into it, that we wanted to get out of it as much as we could, not necessarily going in thinking we're going to win the whole thing, but just taking it as an experience that we thought would be exciting, challenging, beneficial, all of those.
Yeah,
those
so
good things.
So maybe our whys were similar, right?
Mm-hmm.
We do both enjoy a challenge, right? We are kind of these similar risk seekers. I think people that
Bit competitive.
bit competitive for sure. I mean, we are people that enjoy getting tossed around and bruised up, so this is not too far out of that. So I know I had a couple of things that I was slightly nervous about before joining, that first week, similar to just knowing that I'm not competent enough in jiu-jitsu to escape everything or to know every choke. I think another one that I was a little bit wary of was being able to stick to a 6-week regimen, because I've never done something for so long, so intense. Was there any things that you were nervous about in the start?
I would say probably similar to you. I think the time factor was a big deal for me, because I like to do a lot of things outside of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah. That was a big one.
And I knew that the amount of training that was going to be required would limit that. I was also slightly concerned I would not be able to eat as many vegan desserts
Slightly concerned.
as I wanted to. But I think that was a factor. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, the financial part. Like even though my participation in the competition and our seminar with Robert Drysdale was covered by a lovely human that decided to sponsor me for it, there were still other costs. I had to buy extra protein, protein powder, protein bars,
big protein
gotta
girls
bulk
over
up.
here.
And had to get another gi. So I think I was thinking of it as in more practical terms of, will this fit within my life in these
Which
6
is you.
weeks?
That's true to your nature. You're very logical. You're very, you'll calculate the risks, you'll calculate the rewards, and kind of best situate yourself in either of them. So you kind of had to do the same here. And I know you were struggling a little bit in the beginning, especially for financial and it was nice that you had that opportunity, and I'm super grateful that I was able to just even sign up for it. And even that little push of like, okay, I'm in, like my name is on the roster, I've taken my photo, I've submitted my details. I think that was one of the moments that clicked into me, like, okay, we are doing this. Like,
well, I think a huge thing too that I'm just remembering now for whatever reason that for me was a huge factor was that we were going to do it together because you needed to train with a partner.
Right.
Like, to do the drills, to practice the techniques, the rolling, you needed to have somebody. And I think we were talking about it with your dad when he took us out to dinner after the championship, that it's nice to have that accountability partner. That's someone who's pushing you to show up and who you feel accountable to. That, you know, I can't disappoint this person who I'm training with and who's depending on me to show up for training and give it my all, because if I don't, they're going to suffer from it as well.
that too, and it makes it hard to skip when somebody else is relying on you, and you don't know until you like text them, right? Like, hey, I don't feel well, I don't want to go. But otherwise, you're going to assume that they are in good health and ready to go to class.
Yeah.
So if you are going to send them a text of, I don't feel like going, you're kind of, I don't know, maybe messing up the balance. So it's kind of like every time you just got to muster up, you got to put the gi on, pack the bag, and get out the door.
And we did have that experience because we both got sick, a little bit delayed from each other.
Right, so we had that first week where we kind of got acclimated, kind of actually got thrown into the fire, just intense rolling, starting our drilling, trying to get into a rhythm. That second week was maybe an interim week where we were still getting acclimated. And I think our third week of this fight camp was our sick week, my beginning and yours.
You got sick on like
it.
the Monday, and I was sick by the end of the week.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and this was a pretty intense sickness, like pretty high fever. We talked about it in our previous episodes, but I mean, it took us each out of training for at least a week. And that's a big deal for a 6-week commitment. I mean, 1 full week, and we were pretty close to the finish line. So,
and I mean, it has an impact because you're not really eating. Obviously, you're not training, so your muscles lessen in your body. You don't have the fuel. You don't have the stamina, and we had, things in our lungs. We were coughing, so you don't even have like the cardio ability. Capacity to
probably
exert yourself.
That had to have been the most terrible part, was going back to class and still having like phlegm in your throat and snot in your nose and just trying to attempt class, and you've been getting to sweat and all of these things start to come out of your body, and you just have to like excuse yourself and cough into the air into your gi sleeve, which is disgusting.
Super lovely. And so we did, though. We got back on track, and then the penultimate aspect of the training was a 2-day seminar with Robert Drysdale, who's very famous within the MMA Jiu-Jitsu community.
Right, so week 5 weekend, 3 days before competition, we were lucky enough to attend a 2-day seminar with Robert Drysdale, and the way that it was set up was a morning session and an evening session on Saturday and on Sunday.
Each 2.5 hours.
2-hour blocks.
2.5.
2.5-hour blocks.
Yeah.
While we were also beginning a nuts and seeds diet and drinking as much water as humanly possible.
And folks, sprouting some lovely bruises.
Oh, more than just sprouting. We were growing a garden.
I think we should post a picture.
We'll pop some pictures up right now if you're watching the YouTube video. If not, hit up our Instagram. Maybe we'll have some on the stories. But our legs were scary.
I looked like a leper.
I mean, I still have like
I'm still covered in bruises.
Yeah, blisters
like
on the back of my elbows, on my knees from just my gi rubbing up on me, on the floor, on others.
Yep.
I mean, toes, an absolute mess.
We weren't in good shape.
No.
Rocking in Saturday morning.
Even my ankle, I ended up landing on my ankle wrong on Sunday, which is 3 days before competition, and they ended up taping it up. And still to this day, it has good days and bad days. It's only been like a week. But that was really scary for me to have an ankle semi-injury right before. So I had all these things now going through my head of, on top of just competing, now I have to work around if my ankle's not going to work properly.
And I think this was really the height of the feelings of stress and being overwhelmed. We were being pushed to our physical limit. The seminars with Robert were super helpful and informative, but extremely intense. And a lot of rolling, a lot of very physically exhausting exercises and drilling at full speed, full capacity, going 100%. And we were also feeling, I think at that time, at least for myself, the competition was looming more in my mind, that I wasn't feeling in shape for it. I wasn't feeling super confident or confident to walk onto the mat. And I ended up crying on that Saturday.
That was an emotional week for me in total. I think I cried a couple of times throughout the week. I was angry a couple of times. I was stressed a couple of times. I even, my partner, when I call him and tell him that, about my day, he even got a little bit, upset with me because I was giving him my bad energy. But man, we were going through it. And so I just had to collect myself, obviously apologize to him because he's amazing. But that was a cry, that was a angry, that was a push, that was a mental, okay, I have to keep going.
Yes.
Robert Drysdale is telling us to do something. I'm not going to not do it.
And I think, too, it's important to note, because we did our last episode on self-care, that we did end up making that decision to not go to the evening part on Sunday.
Yeah.
And that was largely due to the fact that both of us just felt completely physically beat. And I was covered head to foot in giant bruises. Karina had hurt her ankle. We just weren't feeling good, physically, emotionally, mentally, and we knew we have, 3 nights of sleeping until we have to wake up and go fight in this competition. And I think that was actually a pretty empowering decision that we made, and I just wanted to mention it because of our episode last week, that making that decision was, prioritizing our self-care, and that we are adults and make decisions.
Yeah, it's tough because we know that we have our own autonomy in our own life, right? But because we do compete in this team sport and we are surrounded by our peers and our coaches, we are influenced by what they say and what they want us to do. And so obviously we want to make them proud, and we want to do everything. At least me, I want to do it, and I want to do it past what I should be. But we did have to have these talks with ourselves on the car ride home, and we're just not even speaking, no radio. We're just get me home, please. And taking that mental check. I need this mental space, and I need to really realize where I'm at. And if I want to be fully recovered and feeling well in myself, then I do need to take these extra steps to make sure that I get there.
And it helped. I mean, for me, I took that afternoon, I went on a walk in the woods.
And some sunshine.
Yeah, got some nature therapy in, got some sleep.
Nice bath, shower.
Took an Epsom salt bath, some peppermint oil, and just tried to allow my body the time it needed to heal and allow my mind to reorient.
That was a big part.
The original purpose for why we signed up, that it was something we were excited about, that we were eager to have the challenge and the opportunity to compete with girls who are our size in this arena, that, when in your life are you going to have opportunities like this?
Yeah.
And I think by Monday, I was kind of back on track. I'd switched in my mind and was I'm feeling good about it. I'm ready to go. So I think for me that was the right decision.
I think I was maybe a day lagged from you.
Lagged.
So that Monday I think it had to do with my ankle, because I was not limping, but I could feel it in my movements and on certain ways that I stood, and even I would be in bed pretending to lock up a triangle, and it hurt. I'm I can't even be in guard. How am I going to do that? So I was a little bit upset about my ankle on Monday. But come Tuesday, I woke up feeling rejuvenated, and I remember feeling, and I think I told this to everybody, I was today I feel confident, today I feel strong, today I feel ready to go. And I also feel ready to have fun.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. And we were at this culmination point of, look, we've put in the work, it's been 6 weeks, we've truly been through the ups and the downs. Now it's just showtime. Yeah. And we kind of already got what we wanted out of this experience, which was, accepting the challenge, going through it. While we do still have this competition part, which we will talk on a couple other things that, came together for us, we know that our likelihood of becoming gold and winning in this competition was pretty low.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a nice base to walk into something hard.
Well, and I think Robert Drysdale touched on it over the weekend that, winning is not a destination, it's a direction.
Love that.
And a huge part of developing in Jiu-Jitsu is growth and having that mindset of how do I continually grow in this sport, in this martial art to become better at it. And that was our original idea in doing all of this, and so it just kind of clicked back into my head. And he also, point blank, when I asked about competing, he was like, you're probably going to lose. If I have a magic ball and it says on Wednesday, Justine's going to lose.
Verbatim.
Yeah, he actually said this. And he asked at that time, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm still going to show up. He goes, exactly, why? You want to learn from the experience of losing.
Right, like win or lose, we are going to take the lessons from this, and then we're going to use them on the mat the next time we come around to it.
Yeah, so April 6th arrived.
April 6th.
And for tradition of our exhibition competition, Karina came over, braided my hair, and then we hit the road, got to the arena, and it was big. It was bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Well, first we got VIP parking because we're athletes.
Yeah, we felt pretty special. They asked Karina in Spanish.
¿Tú vas a jugar? And I was like, sí, sí. She was like, oh, aquí. And she opened up the phone for us.
Yeah, we got to go to the special parking lot.
So we did walk in, and we had base level, no expectations for what it would look like, what to do. Any of those, we were just like, we're gonna figure it out once we get there.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we did.
We picked up our free t-shirt.
That was number one.
And lanyard. Super useful for lanyard things.
We acclimated ourselves. So luckily enough, we got there. So they say get there 1 hour before your match starts. So we got there that hour early plus an additional 1.5 hours. Just because we had no idea what the heck to expect.
And we thought it'd be cool. You can catch some matches before you fight. And
it ended up being a decent amount of time. It didn't feel like we were waiting forever.
Well, we'll get to it, but our matches ended up being earlier.
Yeah. Too. Okay, so we're in the arena. We're walking around. We take about a lap. We get our shirts. And we're like, okay, let's figure out our timing. And
we checked our weight.
We did check our weight. And nicely, they had a test scale.
That
was one thing I was a little bit nervous about because I know my weight was closer to that 129 mark.
Mm-hmm.
I was right about a pound under. And it's scary because you have to wear this whole entire gi on. And that weighs about 3 pounds is what I've taken note. So we were able to both weigh in. We both made weight. I like that your dad, he mentioned, he was like, that's the number one test. You passed.
Yeah.
So good job.
First victory.
Yeah.
Got into it. You can compete.
Yeah. And that made me feel nice. Like, you know what? This was a challenge. This was part of the competition.
And there are people who we know who were training with us who got there and had to lose pounds. Like, they weighed in on the test scale and they weren't at weight. So they were doing laps, they're wearing hoodies, doing
several people were sweating out while they were there
to try and make weight.
That stress, I don't know if I'm equipped for losing weight the day of, but kudos to them. Everyone ended up making their weight.
To them. They did awesome.
It's tough. I don't think wrestlers really talk about it too much about losing weight and weight cuts. Even UFC fighters,
my dad talks about it. He wrestled in I think it was maybe just high school. He'll correct me on it whenever he hears this. But, and he told me stories about, having to drive 7 hours to the fight, and he's spitting in a can to get the liquid out, and you don't drink, you don't swallow water, so you just swish it around your mouth and then you spit it out, and they put you in a sauna, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, it's intensive, especially if you have to lose it really quickly, like that. No thanks.
1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pounds, gotta drop it in an hour. Whew.
Yeah. So we jumped on the test scale, and then our matches were following in about an hour or two. So I started, my scheduled start time was around 1:45, and Justine's was about 3 o'clock. So like she mentioned, we were in the same weight class, and we were on opposite ends of the bracket, which I actually read in the rules that you're allowed to have 2 members from the same team be in the same weight division.
Oh.
So luckily we made that rule. And so we were on opposite ends. me going first, which I found was funny even in our little kingdom comp. I
You went first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay,
This
nothing
is the
new
way it
here.
goes. So we sat down for a bit, watched, and then it was time to warm up. And shout out to our friend Meg,
Mm-hmm.
who had given us huge insight into how to warm up properly for a competition, to get the heartbeat going, to include movement in the stretches, and how to just generally prepare your body so that you don't have the adrenaline dump, which is what I experienced in the first competition, which coupled with, 100 pounds on top of me more than my weight, ended up making me vomit. So I did not want to vomit in this competition.
Yeah, I think that was one big takeaway from our first mini competition was we need to get our heart rate up beforehand. We need to work up a little sweat because otherwise we are going to adrenaline dump. So they had these mats out, small mats. They were pretty crowded, but all the fighters were warming up, and so we did our little, switch lunges and straddles
jumps
and grips, whatever it was. But it felt nice. It felt nice to just move
jumping
around.
jacks,
Yeah,
running in place, high knees.
get it flowing around. By the time that we finished warming up, it was about time for me to go on, and so our team ended up showing up, a couple of my family members, and then it was about time for me to go into what we labeled the bullpen.
It might actually be called that, I don't know.
I feel like
Because I feel like other people have been saying it, and I don't think it's just because we were saying it, but it could be.
I'm going to take credit for the bullpen. But it's this small, gated off area where all of the fighters wait till their match starts.
And this is when you check in. So this is when they check your gi, they check your nails, and they do the final weight check.
I didn't know they checked your nails.
They asked for to see mine.
Yeah, no, they asked to see mine too, but I didn't know that was a thing that they checked. So they were like, they put this machine, this tool inside of your gi to measure to make sure that there's enough space inside of the armhole of your gear so that it's equal amount of grip space for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
They check the length of your bottoms, and they turn you around a bit, and then they say, okay, let me see your nails. So I guess that is a really big component, not having long nails.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can get disqualified for that, or hopefully
Well,
somebody
you
has a
probably
nail
have to
cutter.
cut them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bite them off.
Yeah, for real.
Wait,
You're
1 second.
So that was a little bit, my heart rate definitely went up a bit because when he stuck the tool inside my sleeve, it didn't go in right. At first, he was struggling to get it in. I was like, oh no, is it too tight? Is it too small? Like, my other gi is not good. Like, I'm not ready. And then he was like, okay, you're good. Good luck. And I was like, okay,
We
cool.
both got to compete in our favorite gis. So
Yeah.
that was
Uh-huh. So I guess it's time for my match.
good. Yeah, let's go into it.
Okay, so I end up walking to my mat next to my competitor. So we end up walking down, and they ask for your ID, and then the referee will instruct you on, and they have certain arm movements that mean certain things. So I did read the rule book. They had pictures. It was nice, but it's pretty self-explanatory.
Read the rule book if you're going to compete. I highly recommend reading the rule book.
No, like,
Thoroughly
actually, yeah.
asking questions
Yeah.
because
We asked so many questions throughout the 6 weeks of, okay, is that allowed? Like,
there's
oh,
a lot
this?
of details.
Because it is a strategy game, so if you know that you can earn points a certain way, you can just straight up go for points. Even our friend Meg, that's how she was able to win some of her rounds, even though maybe they're better than you.
Yeah.
So my match starts, and I am calm, I'm cool, I'm collected, and I am, like I said, I was ready to have fun. I felt warmed up, I felt light on my toes, I felt strong, I felt happy. My hair was nice and tight, and when we started, I was able to execute my game plan from day one, which I think gave me a little bit of confidence to keep on going. So I was able to pull guard and do a tripod sweep, which is what we had been learning in class. And so I ended up getting her down to the floor and throwing my weight on top of her, so I was similar to mount on her, but I had one leg caught in her.
She had you in half guard.
After that, we rolled around a bit, and this is where some of my weaknesses come into play. One of them being that whenever I am on mount on somebody, I am not the best at staying on for a long time. And that's just me needing to work on my form up there and staying tight and all those things. And I knew this wasn't a weakness of mine. You know it's a weakness of mine. We've been doing it. I'm not the best at it. And so that tumbled into another, which tumbled into another. And we end up getting to a close range where I'm standing up and she's sitting down, and I am in a close position where I'm about to get triangle choked. And I remember in my head noticing that my arm was close to a triangle position, and I think I had maybe 1 to 2 seconds to move it and to get that realization in. And in that timing, she was able to lock it up, get her hand around her leg, and make it tight around me. A couple seconds later, I was in a full triangle choke. I think she had every part of my neck touching with her leg. So good on her. I did end up tapping out, but I did have more points and advantages than her, which I didn't even know.
Yeah, you had 2 points from the sweep and 2 points from advantages. Yeah.
Right. So it's something that I'm going to make sure that I do more next time, which is keep track of points and keep track of the clock. I think when I went into it, I was very focused, in a good way, very focused, but I forgot I was even in an arena. Like, I really only saw, like, the yellow mat and the girl. And I felt like I was just in the zone. Like, I was in the flow. I was there. I was going to do what I was meant to do. And if it didn't go my way, I knew similar ways to make it go my way.
Yeah.
And it's just sucked. I got choked out.
I mean, I was watching, because I didn't have to be in the bullpen yet, because she was the second fight and I was the last one in the first round of our division. And you looked strong. You looked confident. You were strong on the mat. Like you said, you executed, how you wanted to start your game plan. And as you mentioned, those are your weaknesses that you got caught in. Not that it's funny, but because I like to do a triangle choke. Yeah. So I often catch Karina. If 100%. I get her to tap out, it's usually in a triangle choke.
100%.
So it's like, Karina.
Not this girl again.
Yeah, going against me all that time, and my friend Austin also does triangle chokes.
Yeah.
So you're very familiar with them. But
yeah. So my legs are a little bit shaky after the match. I was definitely breathing pretty hard, which I didn't notice. And I got to talk to my coach at the end, and he gave me some positive words of encouragement. Also told me you do gotta work on this, like blah blah blah. And I got to talk to my family after, and I didn't feel like any sort of way about losing,
Yeah.
I was just like, I was happy it was over. I was happy that everybody was saying that I did okay. I felt like I did
good.
okay.
It wasn't just okay, you did well.
Thank you. But I felt like I sufficed. And in the end, it was my weaknesses that got me, and it's exciting for me to go back and train those things even harder now that I have this real life experience that kicked my butt.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a huge thing, to be able to, 1, walk on the mat with that confidence, and then 2, walk off, taking the lessons that you learned and not being overwhelmed by, the fact that you lost.
Yeah. So
in that scenario.
Yeah. So I got to calm down. I got to be good for the day.
Yeah.
And then it was about your time to head in.
Yeah. So it was about a little over an hour, I think, after Karina fought until I went on. So I'd been kind of just like bopping around, trying to keep like moving and keep my heart rate up. By the time I got into the bullpen, it took a long time for me to, after I got in there until I fought, probably at least 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. So I just had my headphones in. I was listening to one song on repeat over and over again. It's kind of like a pump up song, and I was feeling pretty cool in there. I was like, yeah, like getting this like hardcore like heart pumping music going, and felt like kind of a badass, like jumping around in this little corral.
Yeah, and sometimes you need that. You need to feel like a badass a little bit.
Although it was kind of intimidating, because I was looking around and there's like this guy with a bandaged head and this other one whose eyes are bloodshot, and I was like,
oh boy.
So anyways, I ended up going out and same procedure, walked onto the mat. And for me, this was really kind of my main victory in the entire experience, was that I had control over my nerves. I felt collected, calm, focused, and committed to fighting against this opponent who I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
And so my round, I pulled guard in the same way that we knew how. She ended up getting around it eventually. We kind of were grappling around on the ground, and when I was trying to stand up, she got my back. And thus ensued a very long period of time of 3.5 minutes of being choked in different varieties.
Warrior.
It was, about 3.5 minutes of being choked. She had my back the entire time, and there were 2 specific points where I almost tapped. And I had to kind of mentally be like, there's still some air coming in. It's not a full-on choke. And eventually, with maybe 45 seconds left on the clock, I was able to finally get out of her choke, get out of her back mount, and I was in her guard. I stood up, was trying to pass. She had 4 points from getting the back mount, but then time ran out, and so I lost by points in my match. And I was so dizzy afterwards. I was
You were solidly getting choked.
Yeah, I was super dizzy. My arms were shot, but I still felt happy about it. Like, it just, I think it was a similar feeling that you explained. Like, it was over, but also was like, I did this. Like, I came onto this mat, I fought a stranger, and I'm walking off the mat, and even though it's a short period of time, it was pretty cool. So, Karina and I met up after.
Well,
go ahead.
On the note of your fight, all of us on the sidelines, the team and us, and including me, we were super, super impressed with how you were hanging on. I mean, those 3 minutes ticked by. Like, they went by. They weren't fast by any means.
No.
And we were basically just on your side. Like, man, she is sticking in there. She's got a hand. It doesn't look like she has much space. And she's still hanging on. I mean, this girl is probably using all her might, because you're going to go in there, and if you get somebody's back, you're going to go 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And you even telling me after, if I were in class, I would have tapped like 3-4 times already.
Yeah.
That shows that you put your heart into it, and you really did. And that's something that I don't think that I talk to myself enough about. Preparing for this entire thing, I knew that there was a big mental component. So we were so blessed to have this bountiful information given to us by all of our teammates on kind of how to prepare and things like that. But I just felt like, I'm okay, I feel good. Like, I did all the physical stuff and maybe not enough mental stuff. And so I wish that I was able to hold on a little bit longer, because I did tap out, and I did tap out when I still had air, if that makes sense. So I think having that talk with yourself of, it's going to be uncomfortable, and if I get in an uncomfortable situation, I'm going to stick it out. And that's exactly what you did. I mean, the timer went off, and yes, you won by points, but you won by heart, for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things you're getting, like there's some air coming.
What was
it
through a straw?
Like through like those tiny little coffee straws.
The little black ones?
Yeah, those little red ones that, you can't hardly get anything out of.
Yes.
It felt like that, but it was something. So, yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, we did the damn thing.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Feeling it. Oh, yeah.
Anybody got a drink that they're listening with us?
We have our
Cheers.
rosé. Cheers, folks. And I think that's kind of a good point for our transition into our last aspect of this, which is really what our takeaways were, because obviously we both lost. We didn't. You do all of this. It kind of sounds so silly, actually. You do all of this preparation, and then you literally compete for 5 minutes or less. And so then it's like, so what did you get from the entire thing? And I think we talked about it on our drive home from the competition and had very similar takeaways.
No, you first.
Okay, well, I think our first one that both of us had was that moment of overcoming fear and being able to walk onto the mat feeling focused, confident, and having our nerves and emotions under control. Like, we really walked onto the mat with a warrior spirit that we were going, and we were like, we're going to fight this match regardless of the outcome and give it our all. And I think that was such a drastic difference from our first little tiny exhibition competition, and to be able to achieve that in such a large, intense environment is a really big deal.
Well, we walked onto the mat with this warrior mindset, but we also walked into the arena with this mindset.
Mm-hmm.
We also walked into the 6-week fight camp with that mindset. I think we even walked into Jiu-Jitsu with that mindset. I think we even walked into Jiu-Jitsu these past couple months with that mindset.
Yeah.
And now we're walking into Jiu-Jitsu after the fact with an even stronger warrior mindset.
Yeah.
And just knowing that our nerves can be calmed. I mean, I am the number one advocate for feeling extreme anxiety. I have to, TMI, I have to use the bathroom when I'm scared, when I'm nervous, when I have something big coming up. And I was so happy that that did not happen to me this time.
Yeah.
I did not feel anxious to the level that I have before at all. Of course, a tiny bit, because this is something new and adrenaline is pumping. But we were both in this very, easy flowing state.
Yep.
We were receptive to others. We found out where we needed to go. If we didn't, we walked around, we looked for it. We knew that we were fighting a stranger. We did it, and we kind of just overcame that. Something that could be so stressful. We just let it be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me personally, the huge takeaway too was the fact that, being choked for that amount of time, being in that really uncomfortable situation, my jaw is bruised, my neck is bruised, everything hurts from that experience, but being able to have that mental endurance and that mental strength to realize, have the clarity in mind to realize, she doesn't fully have the choke. There's still an opportunity to get out of this situation. And then to, with a relaxed mindset, actually attempt to execute whatever little I know of Jiu-Jitsu to try and get out.
Well, it's what we've been saying. You can't duplicate this competition type feel.
Mm-hmm.
This actually going in there and tapping out when you are about to not make it any longer.
Yeah.
Go
bye-bye for a little bit.
you can try your best to emulate it in class, but nothing's going to give you that same feeling, that same fierceness inside of you than competing.
Mm-hmm.
And they say expose yourself to more competitions. The more and more that you do,
the better it will be.
Yeah,
so I think that was the main one for us. We also both were in agreement about the fact that we have developed and progressed in our Jiu-Jitsu as a consequence of not just the competition, but the 6 weeks of training that we invested. And I think both of us are open to the possibility of competing again. I think we both were like, that was kind of fun, and we left feeling really optimistic and happy about the entire thing. And I think as a general takeaway, it's always gonna be an exciting and revolutionary experience to challenge yourself. And so if you're on the fence about whether you should compete or not, if you have even that tiniest little inkling that you think you might grow from the experience, you might develop and evolve from the experience, and you have the capacity to invest so that you can actually have the experience you want,
then pull the trigger.
Then go for it.
Because we did.
Yeah.
We made it outside. We made it on the other side.
Yeah, so here we are to tell the tale. And I do think, too, is there any other takeaway you want to say before we wrap up?
I think I really experienced that high after the fact, and it was like a day later, but man, I cried happy tears. I felt such a nice relief. I felt proud of myself. I felt excited for the future of my Jiu-Jitsu career. I felt so full-hearted with the support from my teammates, my friends, my family, and I was fully complete,
Yeah.
And I pushed myself to this limit that I would have never thought even a year ago that I'd ever be doing something like this. And that feeling, I cannot wait to duplicate, whether it's competition or not.
Yeah. And I think this is probably a good point to end on then, is that, we didn't get here just by ourselves. We had we were talking about it throughout the day as we were leading up to the competition, and afterwards we have a whole little army behind us. We have our, all of our teammates who train with us at the gym and who roll with us and train technique with us. We have our coaches, Karina and Jason, who were both there. Jason was yelling on the sidelines trying to get us to get out of these situations.
All I heard was his voice, and it was like sent from the heavens above.
Yeah.
Such like thank you immensely for all of the support from everybody, to the active listeners, to the people that just watch, to the people that just listen, to the people that just like a story, that like just everything. I mean, I feel extremely grateful to be in the position that we are and to be able to be doing these things.
Yeah, and I think our friends Mary Beth and Meg get a special shout out for all of that they did to support us emotionally and in terms of jiu-jitsu to help facilitate
and offering
us
without us even asking,
to help facilitate us being able to feel the way we did going into the competition and feeling as prepared that we did going into it. And I'm sure we're forgetting people. There's the wonderful human who sponsored me. There's Austin who sends us jiu-jitsu reels all the time, and
everybody contributed.
Jinx.
Owe me a soda.
But thank you to everybody. We're happy about the entire experience, and looking forward to what's next in this crazy bruise-filled journey.
Yeah, man.
Until next time, whether it is
on the mat or off the mat.